Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
When I first saw a photo of you guys, I was like, they do not look anything like I thought they would.
What the devil have you been up to, Georgie boy?
Love it. I never know what it will be.
No, you never know. I like to keep it fresh, random, impulsive.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
do you know what? This is a double header day, isn't it? We had a guest this morning, and we've had a guest this afternoon. So I kind of, you're almost asking, what have I done in between? I went on a lovely bike ride. It's great.
Lovely.
Yeah. From my house down to Saltdean, which is to the never eat shredded wheat to the east. And then
I like you to do all four, but you just needed the second one. Yeah.
Did just need the second one. It's mental. I always need that. Otherwise, I do not know which way. An hour and a half I was out. Lovely. Just sunny day. The hard part is avoiding people because obviously, I love Brighton and I love when there's people there and I love the busyness. I actually quite enjoy when it's
all
rammed,
the things
you know
I
what mean?
hate.
Well, this is it. But I'm like, Brighton's buzzing today. But at the same time, I'm like, it is quite hard to ride your bike. But I never get annoyed, like, get out the fucking cycle lane. I'm like,
Do you have a bell?
I don't
Ding,
know.
ding, ding.
No, I don't. But what was funny is I was cycling along the cycle lane going to Hove, and someone behind me had a bell and just would not stop ringing it. So people were thinking it was me, and I almost felt like saying, like, hey, I'm not the bell guy.
I'm not
bell
the
end.
Yeah.
That's what we were leading at. How are you? Anything
Good,
new?
man. As you say, we've done 2 episodes today. So this is all a timeline mess. So haven't really done
Did you
much.
almost feel like, God, what do I do before the next one? I was like, because we finished at about 11, I want to say, and then it was like 6 hours, and I was like, well, I can't start a roast. Not like I was going to start a roast, but you know what I mean.
That classic Monday late afternoon roast.
Exactly.
Well, this is tied in because I did the first one at home. I'm doing this one at the studio because I'm working tonight, so I got bands in very soon. Just the Olympics on, mate. Just a bit of the Olympics.
I watched a bit today.
I'm doing a bit of cleaning,
You said it. I watched a bit of horse racing. Not horse racing, the jumping. Equestrian. Is that it? Where they sort of have to jump.
Equestrian. Love it. Equestrian, yeah.
So odd. And I watched the gymnastics. Where there's a big square and they have to run as fast as they can and then do a load of flips. They'll do a long jump and then do some flips. And you're like, that's pretty cool. And then they'll turn around and do it again. And then they'll sort of find a corner.
Oh, no, do you mean on the big mat? I think that's called the floor.
Fair enough. So when they're doing the floor, and there'll be a bit where they just sort of doing a little dance in the corner, and then they'll get up and do another run. And I'm like, why don't you just do more of the running and jumping? That's the cool stuff. Like, anyone can do
it's
these
cool stuff. I
poses,
imagine it's quite energy sapping.
Well, that's what I think it is. It's
I've never done a
breath.
double pike jump flip twist before. But I imagine the energy I'd need to expel, I don't have. And speaking of that, right, I'm going to segue lovely here, right? One of my gigs I did last week, my 3 on the bounce, the Isle of Wight one, played on the back of a truck. Right? That's where the band was up. Not a very big truck. The truck bed that we were playing on was quite high up. Getting on the stage was quite tricky for a man of my physique. To the point where I was like, I got to kind of minimise how much I have to go up and down this thing.
Yeah.
So Neil, he's got the Elliott spring. He can hop up.
Yeah, of course he does.
And I don't want to re-damage my back either. So I'll be like, Neil, can you go up and get my clothes for me, please? And when I was up there, I was like, I'm just staying up here now till sound
I
check.
can imagine that.
Yeah. So,
up
gymnastics wouldn't be my...
No, I think when we do an episode together, we should really watch the Olympics and discuss it because I think there's so much to discuss. Which one we do, go more into depth on that because I need to watch more. I was watching skateboarding as well. I was like, has that always been an Olympic event?
No.
But I'm all for it.
Tokyo. That was the first one last time round.
Was it?
Yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Right. Let's introduce our guest because we've got a habit of this recently. Just talk. When it's a guest.
We got Jordan Farrugia.
Great.
Jordan Farrugia on the show.
Yeah. I'll just say, lost an AirPod. How I met him. He was actually on the group I'm on, a WhatsApp group with Johnny Brister. And I said to he was like, hey, does anyone want this gig? And I said, oh yeah, I'm up for it. And then he messaged and said, oh, I just realized you're the guy from that podcast. And he said, I've listened to everything.
Yeah, it is me.
Yeah, it is me. Yes, I am famous. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we started chatting. And he has a video where he's playing a big gig and fire came out the stage. And I went, well, do you know what? That's enough to merit being on this podcast, you know? So, yeah, but leading up to this, I feel like him and I have become friends. So it was I was sort of looking forward to this because, as I've said, I think the perfect in between for a guest is someone you know enough that you can chat to them well, but don't know enough that you don't know all their stuff. You don't want to be like, oh, I've heard this story. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, there was a fire at a travel lodge, you know? So strap yourself in for that.
Sweet.
Yeah,
well, let's crack straight on with it then.
Yeah.
Here's our chat with Jordan Farrugia.
It was a hotel, and I got back from Ronnie's. I specifically remember I was at jam night, and I got back at about 3, and I was like, that sounds like the fire alarms are going off in the travel lodge next door. I was like, that's odd. I was like, nah, anyway. So I got to my front door and I was like, is that smoke? And I'm like, oh, surely I'm seeing things. Like, this is like 3 a.m. And I was like, I've just got a weird feeling about this. So I called the fire brigade and I was like, I think there's smoke coming out of the travel lodge. And they're like, all right, fine. And then I saw these 2 guys arguing next to the travel lodge. And I was like, what the fuck have you done? And I was like, this is a coincidence. And I called back and I was like, probably a coincidence, but this has just happened. And then they pissed off. So I thought, let me just go around to have a look where they are. And there was like a bin shed. I was like, oh, okay, this is definitely on fire. And it was a blaze. And it was right next to the hotel. So by the time I'd called them, I was like, no, there's definitely a fire. By the time the fire trucks arrived, it had caught onto the travel lodge, gone up the cladding, gone into the roof, and the whole hotel was ablaze.
Wow.
It was nuts, to the point where they declared it a major incident. They had over 100 firefighters there. The London Fire Brigade drone unit showed up, and this drone the size of my car, they set up, and they had this van shot with a big screen, and you could see inside the roof. It was all thermal imaging. They were pumping water out the Thames because it was that big. It was crazy.
Wow.
And then I get another phone call like
It's
5
getting bigger.
Yeah. Send someone, please.
The best bit about that was the way you called up and said, there's definitely a fire.
Yeah, because they were like, phone us back if anything changes. I'm like, yeah,
the fire gets bigger.
It's big and orange, mate. I think we need to
Yeah.
Hurry up.
And it's hot. It is hot.
It was, honestly, it was like I'm standing a long way away and you can feel it.
Wow.
Oh my God. Perfect segue. So I saw an Instagram video. I'm too excited to even do the segue, where you were playing with Kamyar and there was fire coming out of the stage.
That was a very weird. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. So I played with him a few times in the UK, and they were quite small shows. One was in Scotland, one was in Manchester at the Manchester Academy, and then it was he's got some shows in Europe. I was like, all right, cool. So we had one first that was supposed to be in Amsterdam somewhere, then that got cancelled, and then we had the tour. So I went to Frankfurt. So this is a very long segue up to the fire. Went to Frankfurt, did that show. We're probably going to want to speak about this while it's recording, I guess. Or are we recording?
Always recording.
Oh no!
Don't worry, Jordan. This is a 142nd episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
We learned to press record after 120, so we got.
Well, so we arrived in Germany. We showed up for the Frankfurt show, and absolute nightmare. Like the crew didn't know anything. Like the drums weren't there. It was completely the opposite of what was on the rider. I'd asked for, like, example, two crashes, hats, splash, and a ride, and it was like one crash, wrong size hats, and a china. I was like, what?
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a bit of like, oh God, if this is what this entire tour is going to be, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. But in the end, it was okay. Guys had some issues with their in-ears as well. There was some RF interference as well. So the show was like, the first one was like, this is going to be an absolute nightmare of a tour. And that was to a couple thousand, I think. So then we get on the plane next day, head to Gothenburg in Sweden. And they said it was a festival. And I was like, it's going to be interesting because Gothenburg, Sweden, April, it's freezing. But it was this outdoor festival that we showed up to. And I was like, oh, wow, this is massive. Did the sound check. That was all cool. And then we had like a few hours to waste and then come back. And when the taxi pulled up behind the stage, I was like, I can't even hear myself think, the crowd is so loud. And we were playing, like the tour was kind of alongside this other Persian singer who's like a bit of a legend. Her name's Layla. And everyone kind of knows of her. So she was playing first and the crowd were going nuts. And I was like, how many people are here? And they're like, between 8,000 to 10,000 people. And I was like, okay, wow. It seems weird when you're on the stage during sound check and you see just this empty void of space. It's just like, I don't really know how many people can fit here. And then when you're there, it's dark, all the lights are on. It's like, this is nuts. And I just had this buzz. It's insane. And they didn't say there was going to be fire. And that was more than like a little bit of fire with these pyros that were like going sideways, up and down and shooting. It was, mad. And you could feel the heat. Absolutely. It was so hot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Much like a Travelodge hotel when it's on fire.
Yes, which it was. And segue back to the Travelodge is how I then ended up in Isleworth Crown Court as a key eyewitness to this incident.
Oh, yeah.
So I got a phone call from the fire investigator who was basically like, you were the first caller, so stay at the scene because we need to kind of get your...
Yeah, they say that.
All right. And then this man who I can only describe to be the closest reincarnation of Action Man steps out of this like Range Rover, really tall, slim, muscly man. And I was like, whoa, I am intimidated by you. He like lifts up the police cordon, was like, after you, mate. I was like, all right, cool. So he gave me a hat and he was like, we're just going to go inside and look at the footage. He said, because like we need to see the time that you'd reported that these guys were arguing. Anyway, so that was that. I kind of explained it. And then like 2 or 3 months later, I get a call from the kind of like Crown Prosecution Service witness team. And they were like, it's going to court and you're going to be summoned to do whatever.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's the time. I think I was kind of just starting to see my girlfriend at the time. And I was obviously explaining it. And I was like, fancy going to court? She was like, yeah, all right then. So like walk in.
What do you mean? As in like she can just sit and watch? Or
yeah, because they were like, obviously, like we know it can be quite like a challenging thing. Like if you've never been to court, it can be quite, stressful. And I was like, yeah, I think I'll need someone. And I was like, do you fancy seeing what happens inside a court? And yeah, full on wigs, gowns, like 12 people in the jury. Yeah.
I was hoping you'd say girlfriend was the prosecutor.
I was hoping yeah. She was involved somehow.
Were you on the witness stand then? Were you questioned?
Yeah, I was up there for it, and I'm just over an hour, and they're like properly like, when you made the phone call, they showed me this like Google Maps printout of like, this is the geotag of the phone call that you made, so this is where you was when you made the call, like detail, and you could see. Can you just like, for the sake of the jury, can you point where it was? Blah blah blah. And the funniest part is that I'd taken a bunch of videos naturally, and they were going to seize my phone. I was like, no, I'll just send it to you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And I
got email.
Yeah, WhatsApp maybe. And they were like, it's like, seize my phone. Like, I'll just send you the footage. Like, we didn't seize it.
I didn't fucking do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I called you to come here.
Yeah.
But that's when they were like, I was like, I said, one of the videos is where you can see like one of the guys being a bit shady. And they went, which one is that? Like, which one out of the 3? And I was like, what do you mean the 3? I said, I sent you all 6 of them. And everyone just stops and like the judge looks at someone and then he looks at the judge and they're like, just going to adjourn the meeting 1 second. And they pulled me outside and they were like, we don't have the rest of the footage that you sent. I was like, oh, and they wanted to seize my phone again. I was like, oh, just send you the footage. Like, it's on my phone now. And I'm like, all right, fine. We'll ask if the judge is okay with that. obviously he was okay with that. And then fast forward down the line, like a few months or so after, some guy got charged with 2 counts of aggravated arson and went straight to prison.
Wow.
So,
and here he is now.
I was going to segue. This feels very weird because I feel like we've not like started the podcast yet. I was like, okay, let's talk about music, and then we started off with courts and fire.
Much more
I almost
interesting
don't
than music,
want to talk about drums. Yeah, is that everyone's like, you've done a big gig, you know, fire.
All you talk about is drums on a podcast called Drum and Drummer. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I should say, not to blow smoke up our own arses, Ben, but Jordan is a listener. So, and he messaged me before this and said, this is his words, not mine. Never meet your idols, you know? And now he's meeting us. So, Jordan, in your words, how does it feel to meet your idols?
I'm saying it's very strange because I don't know if you have this thing like where you listen to people on the radio, you kind of build up this look of what you think they look like. And for some reason, I just didn't think that the cartoons would be you guys. So when I first saw a photo of you guys, I was like, they do not look anything like I thought they would. For some reason, I had this look in my head because Ben, for some reason, you sound like this comedian. What's his name? No, I forgot what's his name. This is a very bad segue, but he's a very your voice sounds very similar to his. So I don't know why I just kind of pictured you to look like him, and I was just like, these guys don't look like anything.
Probably a handsome man, isn't he?
You're much better, mate. Don't you worry.
Why is that so funny? You don't look like the cartoons.
Yeah, I just didn't tweet because I normally like listen to you guys on the way to gigs, and I was actually mentioning this to you not long ago. Everything makes me fall asleep. So driving home, I can't listen to music, otherwise I'm constantly nodding off. And for some reason, your podcast is the only one that keeps me engaged at the wheel, making sure I don't fall asleep at night.
Just the sharp witticisms and astute observations on the current economy and climate.
On the current political climate that we're currently in. Yeah. The one thing that does grind my gears is how loud the segue music is. Do you know how many times I've blown the speaker?
That's what's keeping you awake, mate. That's
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm like, fuck, don't quit all over the road because it's like, and I'm like, this is so loud, Christ.
I think it used to be louder as well. I think this is after you've turned it down, Ben.
Yeah, it's really hard to judge.
Well, of course it is. It's like, yeah.
You know,
should we turn it down a bit more?
I could turn it down. You know,
keep turning it down.
I think it's normally because when you guys are talking, there's so much like background noise of driving and stuff. I'm like, let me turn it up so I can hear it.
Yeah.
When it comes in, it's like, oh my God, that's so loud.
Because it's condensed, isn't it? I learned all about condensing when I was at college, and I've never forgot it. You know, when people are like, "Oh, why do they make the adverts louder?" And it's like they're not actually; they're just condensed.
Do you mean compressed?
You know what I mean? That's the one. Yeah. Compressed.
3 years of uni and condensing.
Compressed milk. I saw that you played on a drum line, or have done this before. I'm fascinated by this because I don't really feel, aside from Pat Garvey, but we didn't talk to him about it, we haven't really had guests on that I'm aware that play, you know, snare drums and play it in a sort of, I don't know, formation with other drummers and learn a piece specifically just on the snare. Let's think of a question now that I've opened that topic. Do you like doing that? That'll do as a question.
What is a drum line?
That's those who don't question.
I guess it was just a one-time thing that I did. I don't know if you know of a drummer called Jerry Brown, the uncle of Matty Brown.
That does ring a bell, actually.
But he's obviously a big-time drummer and has had a massive career in his own right. But he runs the music at this church called Hillsong. Now, I never went to that church, but Jerry used to run these like clinics, kind of evening masterclasses, I guess, which were in Toll Yard. So I started going down to that, and then they just mentioned about this Christmas show that they were doing. And like a part of the show was where Drummer Boy the song comes in, and then they have like a formation of drumline. So it was literally before like the main first lockdown. So he asked me if I wanted to do it. He sent me the parts. I was like, I've never done this previously. One, I've never played in traditional grip. Two, like it's there's like tricks and everything. And it was like, and it's in Wembley Arena. I was like, oh, okay.
Where? Oh, right. Yeah.
It was a bit gutting really, because we did the production rehearsals and we did our own rehearsals, and then like the few days beforehand got cancelled, which is like anyway, it's okay. A few years later, he messaged me again, just being like, look, we're doing it again. This time it's in the Dominion Theatre in Tottenham Court Road, as opposed to the Arena, which I was a bit gutted about, but still quite a big theatre. Yeah. And then we just started practicing. We just had to memorize this particular rhythm. It's not too long. It's about anywhere between about 16 and 32 bars. And it's the stick tricks that I was just like, I couldn't get it took me ages. There's like sticks going round and yeah. And playing in traditional grip, I don't know if you've ever seen drumline sticks, but they're like twice as...
They're big, yeah.
They're so chunky. So like I was going back to having blisters again when I was trying to learn. It was like this is painful. And then we actually had the drumline drums, and they're like, it's like hitting like a slate brick. They're so cranked up, it's insane. So that was quite hard. Like, okay, now I need to memorize this and do the stick tricks and not drop my sticks. And now there's a formation that we have to follow. And then you all have to run out when the lights are off. But overall, it sounded fantastic and
really
amazing experience.
How many people were in this drumline?
I think originally the Arena one was supposed to be like, I think anywhere between 10 and 20 off the top of my head. But the one in the theatre where there was 2 on the snare drums either side, and in the middle was someone on the quads. So there was a lot less larger production for the theatre show, but still amazing. And all of the singers and musicians there were incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So had you played traditional grip before? Or
when I was like briefly learning jazz at uni, I had a teacher called Matt Skelton, who's a fantastic teacher, very much as close as I'm going to get to Whiplash, minus the floor tom being thrown at me. I feel like it was like a healthy form of being scared, because like if there's any class I would never show up unprepared to, it was his. Like if he gives you something to learn, you better learn it.
Yeah.
So like the learning curve was quite, the type of guy that you're sitting at the drum kit, and like if this shoulder's like this, he'll be behind you, like sit up straight, start again. So it's kind of like, I'm gonna cry.
Where was this?
So it was at LCM, London College of Music, which is in the University of West London in Ealing. But
is that where you studied then?
It was, yeah. I did a degree like most people do in pop music performance and recording, and then COVID hit. So they were like, you want to do a master's and you get $2,000 off? I was like, yeah, go on then. So I did a master's, and it was cheaper than a normal one. Now I have a piece of paper that says Master of Music, which is the only reason why that's worth £6,000 is a paper to say I'm a Master of Music.
Well, you can say it, so that's pretty cool.
And that's what I've got on my CV when you show up to a function, or like, I've got a master's in drumming.
or in court.
Wow. Exactly.
Address me by my proper title, please, Judge. Master of Music.
I want to talk about Kamyar. Kamyar.
Wow.
Kamyar, called him Kamyar.
Yeah.
Just cut that out. How did that gig come about? And
yeah, that's a really, really, really cool gig. It's Persian pop music. So it's kind of like mixing the traditional Persian kind of 6/8 kind of vibes with pop music, and it sounds amazing, and it's really good fun to play along to. But that started out a long time ago with, do you know the drummer Kaz Rodriguez? So
it does.
I went to one of his clinics and I met his drum tech called Pete a long time ago, and we stayed in contact, and he put me in touch with the percussionist of this band. And then as the years have gone by, we were supposed to do shows and we didn't. But then they got in contact with me again, saying that Kamyar's doing some of the UK shows because he lives in America. And when he's in America, he has his LA guys out there. But when he came over, obviously he wanted a band. So he gave me a phone call. I had to send over like a video of me playing to one of his songs, which is weird because I've never had to like send over an audition tape to someone. But yeah, they enjoyed it. So there's me, percussionist, keys player, and a bassist, and then the rest is on track. So yeah, we started with him last year. Did a few shows in the UK, like I mentioned earlier, and then that's when they called me again and said we're going to do the European tour. And yeah, had some rehearsals, and we hit Heathrow. So it was good.
Well, that was the gig with the fire. Yeah,
that was the gig with the fire. Yeah, that was like a bit of a learning curve because I didn't have too much time to prepare, and it's like really weird forms. It's not your standard like verse 1, verse 2, chorus, and it's in a different language, which doesn't help at all. So trying to like stick with vocal cues is like, what do I write in my charts?
Yeah.
And it's just like 6/8, and then there's a stab here, and then there's this, and it's just like, oh my god, this is really not easy to remember. So on that show, I actually did have charts on the iPad next to me because it was quite a long show as well. But it's more just out of comfort, just to have it there, just to know like if you do have a bit of an oh shit moment, it's there, but not to like rely on it entirely.
These charts you made yourself?
Yeah, just on the old 4Score, just some notes really. But it's quite a common thing in that because in that industry, because there was another band, there was 2 other bands, and they're all on their iPads, but you don't really see in like kind of like if you go to like an arena show and like I don't know Justin Timberlake and they've all got iPads. It's like, what are you doing?
I think that I'd be like, what are you doing? Seriously.
I paid a lot of money to see you read off of an iPad.
Yeah, literally. Let's discuss tracks, Jordan, because that's sort of...
I think I messaged you first because I heard one of the podcasts about you chatting about tracks and Ableton. And there's another artist that I play for called Sonny Tennet, who's actually just released his debut album a few days ago, which is really, really, really awesome. But I got on with him. I did my first tour with him last year. And we did a UK tour, and it was just a trio. And we ended in the Jazz Cafe, and we had a few other musicians, and that was a sold-out show. That was incredible. So then fast forward to this year's tour, and I was like, we need to get some things on track because it's not dead, but it's like every year that goes on, I feel like there needs to be some form of elevation, and there's quite a lot of production in his tunes. So I was like, let's get Ableton. I had like a very old, cracked version of Ableton. And I was like, can't really run a show off that just in case anything happens. It'd be rather embarrassing. And also, I'd never learned Ableton because I would always use Logic or Pro Tools. And I was like, I've not really got a reason to learn Ableton until now. And then you open it and I'm like, what the hell is this? This makes no sense. But got Ableton. And then I was like, we need to get something to like use to run the tracks. And obviously, the more you do your research, the more you kind of see that before you get to like pro level is the kind of the Play Audio 12 by iConnectivity. So did a bit of searching around, got all of the gear together, and then was just kind of focusing on trying to learn Ableton for the tour, and it went fantastically. It had a little bit of a wobble here and there when the CPU was just a little bit like, nope, not having that. Granted, I did have about 400 tracks in the session, so that was probably my own fault, but it's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah, and it's a constant learning curve. I know when you message me like, oh, how much do you know? And I'm like, I'd know just enough to do a show. Do you know what I mean?
And I think we watched the same videos.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Because I was more like, is there a way of like I can refine how I put my session together? Because how I was doing it is I'd watched this guy from studio to stage or something.
Yeah, can't remember his name, but yeah, that guy.
Adam something, I think. And if you just type in Ableton playback, it's just him.
It is.
He does waffle on a lot, but it's good information. And he just kind of has it where you'd have all the stems, and then you do like another set of tracks and another set. So as the session goes on, it kind of gradually goes sideways and down. So I was just kind of asking you, kind of like, is there a different way that you run your sessions? Because everyone's doing it differently.
I know.
I need to streamline this, and that's how we got talking about Ableton.
Yeah, it's. I feel like I need to talk to someone that really does it, like someone that really does playback, because it's like, I'm sure there's loads of things I'm doing not wrong, but like, God, there could be an easier way to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like there's the kind of general consensus of like either you bounce everything down and you do it in not arrangement mode, the other mode where you just kind of press play, next song, next song, next song. But like having all the stems there, or at least like a grouped bounce down version of the stems, just makes life so much easier. When we was in rehearsals, Sonny would be like, I need to hear a little bit more of the strings, and if everything is not bounced, amazing. Yeah, I'll just put that up. I'll put that up. But if it's bounced, then it's let me rebounce it, open it up again. So I think that there's a mix of, let me see how you do it, but what works for me.
Yeah, definitely. So describe to the listeners and me and Ben, who is Sonny Tennet and how long you've been playing with him for?
Sonny Tennet is a UK singer, singer-songwriter. He's kind of own vibe, but it's very, I'd say it's definitely pop, a little bit like kind of inspiration, kind of like your James Bay and James Morrison kind of vibe. And actually it was Johnny Brister, that mutual friend of the show. He'd sent me a story that Sonny had put up, saying that I'm putting a band together, that they're going to go on tour. So I just sent him a message, and I was like, yeah, I'd be up for this. And then his manager sent me an email, Joe. She's like, cool, would you be up for coming for an audition? And it was some ridiculous time. It was like 10 p.m. in like somewhere just on the outskirts of Lewisham. I'm like, oh my God, what is this audition? And the next morning I was flying to Lithuania for a gig with, I was depping for Johnny again. They were doing this Adele tribute theatre show thing.
Oh yeah. What, in Lithuania?
It was a festival, and there was like 5,000-6,000 people, and I'm like, do people in Lithuania love Adele this much?
Yeah.
But it was mad, and that was a huge festival too. So I specifically remember, like, I have to finish this. It starts at 10, and then I have to get home because I have to be up the next day. Yeah, did the audition. It went well. They were filming it, and it's still on YouTube now. Actually, they film the auditions with all of the drummers, the guitarist, the keys. So I did that, and then I heard nothing for like 2 months. So I was like, oh, this is probably a signal of you didn't get the gig. So I just sent Joe a message. I was like, hey, just wondering like if you've made a decision yet. I kind of more just wanted closure, just because I was always like thinking about it. And she just said, yeah, we'll call you next week. So, all right, well, I'm on holiday next week, but call me. As the week goes on, obviously I was on holiday in Malta because I'm Maltese, was born and bred. European passport is like gold dust now. And I remember specifically being on the beach, and it was like 6 o'clock. I was like, who's calling me? Oh my God, Joe's phoning me. I was like, hello? Acting it all cool. And it was Sonny, and he was like, yeah, we really enjoyed your playing, and like you just had the perfect vibe, so trying to be part of the band. And I was like, absolutely. And then fast forward like a year and a half, and we've done 2 tours and prepping for next year's tours, and yeah, it's going well.
So how do you know Johnny? Where does that relationship start? How has he helped you?
It helped me a lot, you know. I feel like there's definitely a certain part of it, like I wouldn't be where I am today, even though I'm not really anywhere in the grand scheme of things. But I feel like it's important to look back on what you have done and achieved. But yeah, I feel like he's been quite influential. I met him at Jam Night. I met him at the Ronnie Scott's Jam Night upstairs like 5 or 6 years ago. And I just had this, every Jam Night at Ronnie's I went to can only be described as a big night of just wank and just showing off, and it's just like, oh my God, more chops, amazing.
Yeah.
And he was like the first one. I was like, he just played groove the entire time, and the one time that someone went solo, he was like, nah, and just grooved the entire way through. I was like, fair.
Yeah.
So I went up to him afterwards, and I was like, mate, like, groove. And I was just having a conversation, because normally whenever you go up to people afterwards, you're like, mate, that was amazing. You kind of get shrugged off, like, yeah, thanks, mate. And he was just like engaging in conversation, and I think I added him on Instagram, the old standard. And then he just kind of like stayed in touch. I'd ask him for some advice. And then as the years went on, he just kind of gave me a little bit more He's got a function band, so put me on for a few of those, and like responded well with the guys, and I still play with them now. And I love the guys on that function band as well. And then slowly he started then introducing me to the Adele show that he played for, which was cool. That was a bit of a step up. But that was like going from like doing function gigs to now you're playing in theatres, which is quite a good experience. Not really playing much on ears previously, so now you're being thrown straight into. I'm reading charts, I'm reading dots, everything's on click, backing tracks. So yeah, that was fantastic. I did that for a year, and then kind of off the back of that, it kind of then just start building up my own kind of confidence, and then start to get gigs my own way really. But he's definitely I feel like he's definitely influential, and he's like, if you mention his name, he's respected by the right people, I think.
Yeah, and I think he's someone who, I don't know, just wants to help people. I think, you know, he's given me a lot of amazing opportunities and just been like, hey, you up for this and stuff. And I think that's such a, I don't know, an important thing, because he's obviously at this level as a drummer and a player and a musician where, you know, he can go, oh, I'm not available for this, so who can I pass it on to, and I know it will help them, and you know, and it's great. And you kind of it's I think it's important to have, I mean, obviously it's important to have mentors and stuff, and he's definitely someone who's a mentor. So it's like, yeah, he's a
you
good
think
lad,
it would be the opposite, don't you? Like, you think it would be, I'm sure there are people like this, but like, you wouldn't be so forthgiving with information and passing on work, and
it's almost like you're protecting your career.
Yeah, like you'd have a bit of a, no, this is my shit. And but actually Johnny's very much like, take it.
I think at the end of the day, he's like,
I saw a video of on Instagram of a big hippo.
Is this going to be relevant?
Underwater, and all the fish feeding, just grooming this big hippo. And the hippo was just like, yeah, lovely, this is great. And I'm just sort of picturing that.
Are you saying?
And we're the little fish, basically.
Yeah. I don't know who comes off worse than that.
Me,
but yeah.
I think. I'm not even in the pool.
You voice messaged me before this. I mean, you voice messaged me quite a lot of stuff, you know.
We're on voice memo terms now, which happened quite quickly, really.
Really quick. It's moving too fast. So yeah, no, but you mentioned about how you have a part-time job, as do I. Of course, a lot of leg there. I didn't even realize.
I was going to say, it looked like you have just a t-shirt on.
Yeah, no. I'm wearing shorts. Shorts are still there. No, you mentioned that you have a part-time job, Monday to Wednesday, and you sort of said about, and I think it's a great discussion about people do feel perhaps embarrassed by it. I don't know. I remember the first time I spoke to Johnny in depth about things, and I sort of said, you know, I was like, oh, I do have a part-time job, and almost thinking he'd be like, you fucking loser. Like, what? You're not just drumming all the time. Yeah. Like, oh, well, I'm not going to take you seriously if you don't always just do drum stuff. You know what I mean? And there's two parts to this. I think, first of all, I do think people have those things and almost are embarrassed about it. But also, this is my kind of, you know, I'm fairly chilled, but there's a few gripes I have. And one of them is people that portray themselves as purely a drummer or just a musician, and that's all they do. And you're going, yeah, but how? Like, I know that you're getting money from somewhere, whether it's like the bank of mum and dad or what. And I've spoken to Johnny about it. I've spoken to a lot of people, and, you know, it's kind of, no one's making money from just one thing in, you know, drumming.
I think,
you know, unless you're in a band, you know, it's like, but I think everyone has, like, you know, little avenues. But I probably rambled on enough about that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
I think everyone has their bread and butter, and like whether it's you play functions or whether you teach, like that's bread and butter. Just that seems to be music related than not. I kind of, as time has gone on, like Johnny's has also been the one to be like, mate, like don't shit on having a job. Like that's the reason why you can afford to live in London and put the time into music. Otherwise, what are you doing? It's just like, yeah, true, actually. And that just allows me to, if all else fails and I have no gigs at all in a month, which you normally do get at the end and start of the year, I can still pay my rent. So I'm not stressing. 3 days a week, it doesn't take up too much of my time. I definitely leave the job at there. Like, I'm not thinking about it when I'm you know, and when I'm at home. And I couldn't think of anything worse than teaching kids. So that's the reason why I don't teach. I don't know. I just I feel that also
have you done it before, teaching?
I have taught a little bit, yeah. And it was fun. It also had its times where it's just like, at the end of the day, they're kids. So like attention span. I remember when I was a child, and sometimes lessons were the most boring thing in the world, and I just want to go and kick a football around. So I feel like there's definitely people out there that are geared towards teaching more than others. And at this moment in my life, I don't really want to teach. I do functions as well, like everyone does. Like some people, I think Bob was talking about it on the last one too. Like everyone does functions. Like I don't see what's wrong with it. Like it's good money and you get to play. I don't get why there's such
exactly. And you might meet someone through it, or and I think the thing that Bob said that was great was he was just saying about how he just says yes to everything, and when he'll have approach someone and say, oh, do you fancy doing this? Maybe he was talking about a function gig and someone says, oh, I don't really do that sort of thing. And then it's just like, oh, okay. Like, and then, you're closing doors, I guess, if you kind of, obviously there's got to be a limit, it's like if the gig's miles away and you don't like the people and there's no money, or whatever, but it'd be like, okay, maybe I won't do that. But
yeah,
generally just, just being open and being like, yeah, cool.
I feel like as long as it doesn't, I'm in a good position where I am right now, as I'm not actually technically in any function bands. Like most of my work is depping. So like when the kind of close community of people that I get my gigs off, if they're busy, it's great because it means I'm busy. But it also means I'm not tied to anything, because like the very few times I've had to try and find a dep is so stressful. So I'd rather, like, it actually works for me quite well now that like you can kind of pick and choose the ones that you do. Yeah, it kind of works out really.
It does. Right. I've just looked at the time, and I'm aware of what we should talk about. God, you know what? Sometimes I'll be playing and I have my my in-ear monitor pack, and it's just, oh no, where's it gone? I've dropped it or whatever. If only there was something that could help me out. Yeah. Let's talk about Brack.
Yeah, that is the exact thought process that I had a couple months ago.
Yeah,
I'd say
Brack is.
Brack is a bracket to attach your pack on. Basically, it's a bracket that attaches to your drum stool or any other stool of any other seated instrumentalist. 2 screws on the bottom of the seat, and it's basically just a bracket that any kind of form of wireless or wired and even headphone extender cables can just attach onto it. And then you're not worried about, it falling off. Or the kind of common story I see, and I have done myself, is like creating some kind of makeshift gaffer tape contraption to hold the pack on the seat. And it's just like, one, that looks shit. 2, you're left with all this residue of tape afterwards, which is awful. And I'm just not a fan of, like, I'm just worried it's going to fall off or it's going to get knocked off. So kind of started before I did the Sonny tour, where my cousin is like this design CAD 3D printing extraordinaire, and I was at his just before the tour, and he just mentioned, like, if there's ever anything that like I could make you to like help you, just like let me know. And I was like, chilly. I was like, could you design something that could hold hold this? And he got his calipers out, and he went, hold on, and he'd come downstairs in about an hour or so, and it just printed this pack. And I've actually got I've got the first one. Hold on. It looks nothing like the final product, but this is Brack number 1. This is the very first thing he designed. So you can kind of see the general. It just screws into the bottom of the seat, and it kind of follows the curve of your drum stool as well. And then you could slot in the pack. So obviously the smaller one in the middle is for like your wide ones, like the little Behringer ones, and then it kind of opens up for the larger ones. And I kind of stuck to that for a while. And there was a few people, like my girlfriend and my parents, and people were saying, like, that's really useful, you should make that into a company. And I was like, I can't be bothered. One, I was like, I don't think it's just time and effort. And then just the more, obviously I started doing the tour, and I was showing it to the sound engineers, and they were like, can I buy one? I was like, no,
No, I can't be bothered. I can't be. Yeah, you're not listening.
Time and effort. I'm drumming. Shut up. And I was like, actually, maybe this is a good idea. So spoke to my cousin about it, and he was up for kind of developing it. And it's been a kind of a bit of a long process since April, because we've come out with loads of variations. This one kind of looks similar to this. You can kind of see the difference in design. Mainly being that, like, actually this is more, there's less material here, because the less material it is, the cheaper it is. And this is also made slightly differently to that one. That's 3D printed, so you can see all the lines. It looks a bit shit. This one's made with a different way. Don't ask me how. I'm not an engineer. But yeah, so it was on one of the tours I was on that the keys player had said, "Oh, is there a way of attaching headphone extenders? Because sometimes if I'm in the studio, I don't get given a pack." I was like, "Oh, that's a good point." So put the little slots on the edges, and then you can just use a bit of Velcro to attach it on.
Amazing.
So that's where we got to that, and then we got to the stage where we was ready to go, and we was developing the website, developing the packaging, and then I posted some photos on the Instagram page. And it not blew up, but I was just getting messages from everyone. I want this. I want this. I want this. And I was like, okay, wow, maybe we need to hurry up a little bit, because
that was quite recently, wasn't it? That you posted these
like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And I just put it on there just to because I specifically thought, well, I'm going to be on the pod, so I want to have something ready. It would seem like a bit of a waste of an opportunity to not have.
Yeah, I can't talk about that fire for an hour, as good as it was.
Didn't tell me you were recording, I would have started differently, but it's going to be an interesting podcast now.
Like it wasn't already. Can you name drop any people that are interested, or is that a bit vulgar? I mean, we cut things out.
I think people will see, because we've not technically launched. We've not technically launched it yet. We're going to hopefully launch in the next week or two. But the website's ready to go. We're just waiting for stock, so it's just waiting for that to arrive, and then we're ready to kind of start on. But there's some pretty big names out there that have already showed their interest, and we've got some going to. But I don't want to jump the gun and kind of go too crazy, because then if we don't have the stock, then it's just a big lull of silence. But we're waiting for it.
Can I ask? So you mentioned that you didn't like having to tape your pack to your stall or anything like that. So obviously, the way I currently I have the Behringer P2, and it's got the sort of metal clasp. So I put it into my trousers, clip it onto my trousers. But it is a problem being sat down.
Exactly, it's the reason why I've always never worn the packs, because it digs into my side, and then I just never get along with it.
So this is like not just attaching it, but it's also that. I guess that's the problem where the solution has arisen from.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, surely something exists. No, it doesn't.
Because if you're stood up, it's fine, isn't it? You're just
exactly.
But it's seated musicians that.
So you don't have a need to move around, obviously. Otherwise, having it attached to your seat would be pointless. But yeah, it's like I've seen loads of various kind of like makeshift ways of doing it. I'm friends with like a few drum techs, and you see loads of like, oh, that's an interesting way of they've got some Gibraltar clamp attached to the seat, which then goes onto the. And like this is so crazy. Hopefully you can edit this out, but I can.
No, keep it in.
I mean, the other thing I wanted to make sure of doing is that it didn't affect your case, because most people put their seats inside cases, and like anything that's too bulky would mean that either it's not going to fit in the case, or if the case is squashed inside a van, it's going to get broken. So this is the one that we're going to be releasing.
Wow!
And I actually do have.
Can I see it from underneath the stall as well? So if you
just two screws.
So are the screws you just
screw them into the wood.
Because it's wood. Pretty much all of the seats available is wood, because all of them have this kind of like fabric underneath them, staples. So everything is wood. And I've actually got a wireless pack here. And it just clips on.
Oh, fuck off! That's so nice. That's brilliant.
And if you want to remove it, or I don't know, you've got like a higher stool or something, and you want to take it with you. It's just two screws, so it's not going to make much of an impact, is it?
Yeah,
George, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Yeah, well, I'm getting you the same thing, so
Well, no, snare number 13 for me, please, George.
I need to start getting some more snares. I'm like, there's so many snares. I'm like, oh, I wish. And then, how much? No, it's fine. My snare is okay.
How many have you got? Oh, have you got one? Or not to sound like, oh, have you only got one?
Have you only got one snare? Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm quite lucky to have my newest. So I've got an Acrolite, which is cool. And
Nice.
I don't play as much as I should really. And then I have the Yamaha the Yamaha Recording Custom aluminium, which is lovely. And then I got quite lucky because my uncle also is a drummer, and he got this snare drum out of the box once. It was a 12-inch, and he's been like diehard DW player his entire life. And I was like, DW, and it's a DW Craviotto, signed by Craviotto before he died, when they did this partnership with DW, and it sounds amazing. And I used it on the last Sonny tour as a side snare, and I've got this video of we was in the Newcastle Riverside. My God, it sounded huge. But yeah, that's good. I feel like Craviotto is quite a. Not many people know about it, but it's like master craftsman, and he did this like partnership with DW, so it sounds fantastic. Yep, so that's what I've got. Oh, and I've also got a little Beverly. I've got a little Bev, which is currently stripped because it was a little bit rusty. Talking about the drum, so that's also.
Bev's been stripped down.
She's a very rusty girl, unfortunately.
How'd you get on with the aluminium Recording Custom?
I use it all of the time. Actually, that's my main snare drum. I feel like I don't have much time to like properly just like, right, let's get this Acrolite to sound really fucking good. I feel like the Yami is like perfect, so I'm like, let's just use that, you know. But it's perfect, and it does the job. Tell me a little bit about your snares, mate. You've got a collection.
Yeah, just a few.
Well, that's all we got time for today.
Next episode.
I can give you a brief rundown on the ones on the shelf. There's a Pearl Masters Maple,
Ooh.
14 by 6.5, white shell with black lugs and rims. Pearl Sensitone. I've got a Pearl, just a modern utility, 12 by 7. Mapex Black Panther Cherry Bomb.
12 by 7. Sorry, I just realised what you just said.
Yeah. I've got a Natal hand-hammered steel.
Encourage him.
I've got a Natal walnut, and then up on the roof, still in their original boxes, I got the brass Recording Custom.
Oh.
I got a BDC Big Softy, a BDC Aviator,
Right.
and I've got me Roland digital one, and then the newest edition is the Mapex Black Panther Babylonian limited edition.
I heard about this one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scope for so much more.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, the thing is, well, I got the brass Recording Custom. I think I should get the aluminium one in as well,
It's going to be lonely otherwise.
Yeah.
Should we move on to our final question?
Yes.
BPD.
Oh, he knows. He bloody knows what's coming.
It's like he's listened before.
Don't know what you're talking about. I feel like I could split it into two. As the receiver of post, DPD has been the best for me. As a sender, as I've now been experiencing with the old Brack, Royal Mail makes it very easy because they're the cheapest to send, and they also collect it from your house for free.
Oh, that is good.
I feel like there's like a limit. If you're like sending like hundreds of parcels a week, then like they're like, mate, you need a business account.
Yeah.
But I feel like if it's something like between like 10 to 20 or 30 parcels a week, then you just book in the time and they just come collect it.
That is pretty
I
good.
guess they're coming to your
bad-
house anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any bad delivery stories?
Just missed deliveries, really. I've been quite lucky. I've heard some horror stories, but I've had like vintage drums and stuff posted around the UK, and I've been lucky, really. So boring answer from me, unfortunately.
No, it's okay. I mean, a boring answer, but it means that you never ordered Orange Juice and Monster Munch and only got Monster Munch, which we found out from last week's guest, which you won't have heard of yet. Cool. Where can people find you?
On Instagram, just Jordan_drummer_, and then just type up www.packbrack.com for the old
Yes.
Pack Brack. We're launching very, 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 very soon. Hopefully within the next few weeks. So keep your eyes peeled.
We'll get that all that shit listed in our episode description.
Amazing. Get your Christmas presents sorted. Come on.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I will turn down the drum sting.
That was no way a personal attack at all.
Just for your episode, I'll put them incredibly quiet.
Just silent. So it's just breathing. That's all there is.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything, as a listener of the show, is there anything else you feel like you want to say? Now you've got your...
I think it's great. I feel like you guys have got like a good balance between the ones you do by yourselves and when you have guests. I think it's great. And don't be afraid to venture off. Doesn't just have to be drums. Like, I think people are interested in hearing about you guys and your gigs. And...
Don't worry. I think beyond episode 10, I don't feel like it's been about drums. It's ventured a lot. It's quite the hard part is trying to make sure it is about drums sometimes, because it's a
good balance though. Because obviously when you have a guest on, unless you talk about fires, that's
well, unless it's you, fucking hell, yeah. First 20 minutes.
I didn't shut up. This guy, bloody hell.
It's great. It's brilliant. I didn't know what was going on.
I think my wish would be that they were all done in person. I think that would be
true. Some people did say to me, "Oh, like, where do you have to go?" I'm like, "No, it's Zoom." And they're like, "Oh, really?"
Yeah.
Is it not?
I still have this idea. I mean, I feel like we're pretty much done with the episode now. Should we say bye and then I'll say
goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jordan.
Bye-bye.
Right. That was our chat with Jordan Farrugia.
It certainly was.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think he's on to a winner with Brack. My God. I don't know why
Well, I think the best inventions are ones where you go, what, really? And then you go, it's very simple, it's very easy, and very handy.
Yeah, and you just go, why wouldn't you get... I think it would almost be as... Not to hype it up too much, but when you buy an iPad, and it's like, when you buy an iPad, you almost have to buy the case on the same day, because you're not just going to have that iPad willy-nilly. I think it'll be like that. You get a monitor pack. It's like, well, I'm not just going to have it...
I thought you were going to go down the route of the iPad, of people, when the iPad came out, people were like, why do I need an iPad? I've got a computer.
Well,
I've got a phone. And then you get an iPad and you go, I can't live without an iPad.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I thought you were going to do that thing. You go, well, no. I just click my thing to my thing. Why do I need to? And you do it. And then you go, oh, that's actually amazing. How have I not had one of these before? Why has nobody made them? This has changed my life.
And also, do you know what would be funny? Like, if you turn up to like...
I'll just wait to see how much they cost first before
I know how much they cost, 30 quid. So
okay.
I think that's more than fair.
Sure.
But
especially if I could have a Drum and Drummer special custom edition one.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all we need.
Yeah. I'm very excited for him. And also, great drummer, great guy to chat to.
Great attitude.
Great attitude. New friend, I'd say. New friend of both of us. Good lad. And it's always helped when they've actually listened to the episode. It's, they've listened to the podcast. It's quite funny when you do the last question. I mean, you didn't even get to ask.
I didn't even ask it. Well,
he was there. He was ready.
I'll do it now, and then I'll edit it in. Who's your favourite delivery company? And then that'll appear earlier in the episode that you've just listened to. Okay. Go check out Jordan. Go check out his Instagram. Go check out the pack Brack.
Yeah.
Should be out soon. But I got to go to work now. So let's bounce, baby.
Let's bounce, baby. But it's been a pleasure.
WAV file from Pro Tools. Let's bounce. Follow on Instagram. Email us, drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. 5 stars. Do it. Rate us. Review it. Spread the word. George, go enjoy some Olympics. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, just pick up the sticks and twat it.